Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the Angels in Politics broadcast, and I am the creative and artistic manifestation of Angels in Politics, the white collar goon. And as you can see, I'm outside, I'm outdoors, and I am fully immersing myself with the mother. All right, and that's Mother Nature, but I'm standing right underneath the sun so I can receive its energy, and I need it. I really need it. I've been indoors the whole time. I've been napping. I've been resting. And some of you may say, like, Gabe, you need your rest. You honestly need it. Like, you put out these visuals on a regular basis. You're reading, you're writing. I haven't done much writing in a while, but it is coming because, yes, due to your requests, people have been wondering, like, when is your new shit gonna drop? Brother, brother, only if you knew. Only if you knew. So it takes time, and that's the thing about creative work. It's not like um, you can be a systematic person and have systems in place, of course. And I talk a lot about systems and having creativity be a part of like a fundamental like aspect or component to your life where it becomes systemic. It's like, oh no, this is a long term ingrained principle, doctrine in the way you conduct yourself in your behaviorisms, and that very well may be true. But if you're trying to do something that's innovative, if you're trying to do something that's what by the term creative, and you're synthesizing and you're synchronizing and you're taking the the interplay between polar opposites, and you're bringing them or converging these concepts together to create something that has never been done before, it's going to take its time. It's not like, oh, we'll do that on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and then by Thursday, Friday we have it, and it's just like we have it. um I've been forced to like sleep on it. I've been forced to rest on it, and I've been kicking these ideas around for a while, speaking with the homies. And the best thing to do about like creativity is just to like relax and let it be. Like, don't force the issue. Like, yeah, meditation works. Resting for me, resting works, but meditation for sure. Yoga for sure. But when people think yoga, most of the time they're I would say 80 to 90% of the time people are presuming yoga is just like hatha yoga classes, which are the physical demonstration of yoga. But yoga is everything. Yoga is unison. Yoga is, you know, bridging the gap. Yoga is synchronicity. Um, so you can perform yoga whilst you're reading. You're doing yoga whenever you're conversing with your peers. You're doing yoga whenever you're having thoughtful disagreement or thoughtful discourses is going down. There's yoga whenever you're writing in your notebook because you're taking notes and you're extracting, data and knowledge and wisdom and whatever the case may be, from the outside sources that you're listening to. So yoga is just like the application. It's the interface. It's the programming. It's the whole API concept, because you're taking something that you've had, or you're taking something that you didn't have in your. It's the culmination of it. All right. It's the coalescence. It's the yeah. It's the infusion. It's the infusion of these of different concepts. So that's what yoga is on a true scale, on a broad scale. But yes, of course, there is hatha practices in which you see the cobra pose or the Surya Namaskarams and the sun salutations, the child's pose, the cat cow, of course. So yeah, that's going down. So the yoga is still going down for sure. But now I'm using or utilizing yoga or yogic principles with my creative input and creative output. And That's brought me to Homegirls Day Liaison. And Homegirls Day Liaison will be a piece. It will be a piece, a creative piece for everyone, to be honest with you, to be candid. It's going to be for everyone, but I think it's about time for me to really put on for the homegirls. I mean, other than the vignette that dropped like in 2017, homegirl, 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 homegirl. It's funny because I had to say that so many times. I recorded a few videos doing that, like, and almost 3 years later, something is coming out of that. That vignette, and it is powerful. Oh my gosh, it is so powerful whenever you are making these vignettes, because what you speak will come into existence. Your thoughts do become things. Your thoughts do shape your perspective. Your perspective becomes your reality. How's it going, sir? Becomes your reality. So yeah, like, it is kind of wild how that turned up. So for sure, the homegirl vignettes led to Homegirl Day Liaison, and all that is a tribute to the women, the ladies, the females, the girls who have impacted my life and shaped my reality, and shaped the way I see the world. And it's really important. I'm getting you into the sunlight for a reason, so you can feel that. But it's really important that you understand that this is like not just paying homage to like the the specific person or the specific homegirl. This is an all-encompassing figure for, or an all-encompassing piece for the divine feminine, right? So I'm going to attempt to encapsulate the magic, the mysticism, the mystique of the divine feminine, of their divinity, of their love, of their caring, compassionate, their strength, their altruistic and benevolent nature, their kind and warm disposition, their mannerisms, their sensual and sexual fluidity, their sensitivities, their vulnerabilities, their openness, the quietness, the introverts, but the gregariousness, the extroverts. Oh my gosh, there's so much to really talk about when it comes to Homegirl Day Liaison. But yeah, that's really what that's gonna be. It's funny because when I was in middle school, oh, let's go before that. Let's go before that. Elementary school, intermediate school. There's a lot of homies that stick out to me, and it's funny because some of those guys who I knew in elementary or intermediate, I still know now. I'm still, I still know those guys now. But there were definitely times in which I can say from my upbringing that I was super cool, like super tight with my female contemporaries, my colleagues, and they weren't just colleagues to me; they were homies. Like I confided in them. I learned from them. We hung out together. I don't. Maybe this is the reason why I'm the cheerleader for the divine feminine, and I champion the divine feminine so much. It's because I was always curious. I was always curious, and I enjoyed just being around female energy. Like I loved and I sought out the opposites or the polarity in humans. So for me being a guy, for me being a boy at that time, a boy, because I'm so much more. We're so much more than just boys, girls, guys, girls, that type of thing. But me being a male, for sure, I loved that. Just the opposite of what I was. So it's like to be around women and their voices and their smell and their nature and their thought process. their intellectual prowess, the way they just constructed ideas and deconstructed concepts. It was like their methodologies were it was fascinating to me, to say the least, right? So boom, now I'm in like the fourth grade, in the fifth grade, and I remember being tight with the homegirls. I remember being cool with the homegirls, um, in conjunction with my my male counterparts. But I remember like being tight with girls for sure, and we would like be in the fifth grade class or fourth grade class or whatever grade it was, and I just remember us having lunch together and talking about what we saw on television, and in middle school pretending like we were rappers and shit like that, and doing, you know what I'm saying, like reenacting what we heard on the radio after listening to 103 Jams and all that type of shit. And like, this is the era of early 2000s, whenever I was rocking jerseys with the headbands, and you couldn't wear headbands to school, so I used to have it around my neck and shit. And girls were wearing jersey dresses, and just that whole era, velour suits and everything, and my Iverson apparel, and just just having that balance, striking that equanimity between like the masculine and the feminine, and having those energies, converge in a room setting, in a social setting, in a social environment. That was my shit. That was really my shit. And I remember that taking place even in high school. In high school, because around that time, you know, there's a lot of guys who don't. And I mean, I'll even say in the past, but for sure in high school, there's a lot of guys who aren't that like cool with girls, and it's not because they disdain them. It's more so, maybe some of them do, but I think a lot of it was, by the time you get to high school, puberty's already kicked off, or it's starting to kick off, or setting in, and like my father would say, you start smelling yourself, meaning you become a bit more self-aware, and that self-aware brings consciousness. Maybe not conscious in the sense of expanding your consciousness and you're being open to the universal downloads, but more so you're conscious of like your behavior. You're conscious of how you appear to people, meaning you're more susceptible to negative emotions or adverse emotions, depending on how women feel about you, and their critiques of you, and their beliefs of you. So there's very few guys I remember who were like themselves around girls, particularly in high school. Maybe in middle school a little bit, but those guys still kind of like had their, they hung out with their friends, their male friends. But in elementary school, we tend to be a bit more open. We tend to be a bit more fluid, and I think that's because it's the polarity of boys and girls, male and female, hasn't been exacerbated or emphasized or amplified because of the lack of testosterone in men, and the puberty aspect, and the lack of women's development as well. Like, so it's like we're just playing and we're fun and we're in school and it's cool. But for sure, by the time you get to high school, some guys have their own girlfriends, and some girls have their own boyfriends, and they there is like a division. There's like this middle ground now where it's like, oh shit, either I see women as a romantic opposition in which I need to date them, or they're not. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it was very, very rare, very seldom that I find like guys who were like cool with girls. You know what I'm saying? Cool with them in the point where it's like we can kick it, and that wasn't my case. You know what I'm saying? Like, that really wasn't my case. I really liked. I had a few homegirls. Like, I mean, not to say just like I had a lot of like female friends, but I definitely befriended women in the same way that I would befriend guys. But I definitely treated women differently than I treated guys. And I talked to them more. I remember being on the phone, and shout out to my homegirls at the time who I used to speak with. But girls from my church, girls from my school, girls who I met through, various, activities and stuff like that. And I communicated heavily with them. You know what I'm saying? I communicated heavily with these ladies, because it's like, I learned a lot. You know what I'm saying? I learned a lot about like just the way like the psychology of women or just like how they thought about things. So I was really intrigued with like just their perspective. Um, and here we are. Well, here we are now, and high school was what, like, it could be very well like 15 years ago, you know, and here we are now, and the culmination of all of those like conversations and the people who I've met, and that, you know, that took me to, you know, a young adult whenever I went to university and past university until I, you know, worked in different jobs in their various fields. And um, I still think about it, how it's like it's been weird now, because for the past 5, 6, 7, well, however many years since I've been out of school, well, definitely more than 5. So, you know, forever, for the past, you know, 7, 8 years, I haven't been around, or I haven't had like a consistent conversation, consistent dialogue with a group of friends, female friends, than which I used to, you know. I remember coming back from overseas and seeing some of my homegirls, and they came to visit, and it was just super dope just to like have those, yeah, like, young women around, because I saw the maturation, or I witnessed the maturation from like, okay, this is my homegirl from 6th grade when we were like 11 and 12, and now she's married and expecting her first child, and this was like 4 years ago. So now she has her child, you know. So it's like, wow, like to see how that worked. Or this was my homegirl who we went to the same church in Virginia Beach, and now when we speak on the phone, it's like, wow, she's doing all these cool things, and she's traveled and she's experienced, and but it's dope, because whenever I speak to her, I still find the commonalities, or I still can hear that person who I met, who I knew when I was 14, 15, 16, you know what I'm saying? And they're my age. So it's just like the development. The development is what I'm into. So like Homegirl Day Liaison is truly going to be just a way for me to provide context to the various, or the variety of women's personalities, the spectrum of their personality, but more so like pull back the layers. Like I want to really show like if like an onion, like how you can peel back layer upon layer, and um, you'll find that there's more to that young woman than what meets the eye. You know what I'm saying? You might just see that beautiful uh, woman, but you see the flesh, you see the vessel, you see the instrument, you see the vehicle, but within that is the spirit. Within that spirit is perfection, and within that spirit of perfection is God, and women are an embodiment of God through a physical form, and then it's through a feminine lens, through the feminine, you know, expression of their true self. And my gosh, it's so powerful. It's so it's magnetic. It's magnanimous. It's I don't know. I think it's pretty incredible. I think it's fascinating. So, Homegirl Day Liaison is going to be coming your way. I mean, I'm not going to tell you when, because I don't even know when. But just, but, but just having this conversation with you, I'm excited about it. I'm psyched about it. I think it's going to be something that you might be into, something you might be interested in. So, boom, we'll do it like that. God bless. Namaste. Namaskar.